Welcome back to the channel. I trust that you're doing well. We are seeing some more Bitcoin accumulation by treasuries, massive Bitcoin ETF inflows, but we're also seeing some whales begin to transfer Bitcoin onto exchanges, leaving some to speculating that some big selling could be on the horizon. But aside from that, we also have billionaires that are calling for a $500,000 Bitcoin by Christmas. So we're going to get into all of that in this video and more, so stick around. Don't forget to leave me a like, hit subscribe for future content, and let's get into the video. We're still seeing quite a bit of green across CoinMarketCap, especially when it comes to the last 7 days. We have Ethereum up 20.6% on the last 7 days, XRP 19.32% up. We have BNB up 6.78%, and we've got Solana here up 8.22%, and Dogecoin up 16% in the last 7 days. We have the total market cap of crypto up 0.5% to 3.84 trillion, and the 24-hour volume is also up 15.6%. coming in at 246 billion. Bitcoin dominance down to 61, so Bitcoin dominance continues to bleed a little bit, giving some of those altcoins a little bit of room to breathe. And if we jump over to Google Trends, you can see I have this set to worldwide for the past 12 months. We're now starting to see a little bit of interest being expressed from retail investors that are searching for the term Bitcoin. You can see that this is now ticking up at a 49, and for the last little while, it's just been kind of chugging along at a 31, 32 read. There really wasn't much interest from retail as big institutions were loading their bags, treasuries loading their bags, ETFs loading their bags, and retail just kind of sleeping on the sideline. Then we get that massive breakout for Bitcoin, and go figure, retail begins to chase by suddenly expressing some interest into Bitcoin. But this has a long ways to go just yet. You can see when it ticks at 100, that's when this becomes a little bit overheated, and you begin to think, okay, is there going to be some profit taking at those levels? But right now, it's still just down at a 49, but some interest from retail is starting to be expressed, at least according to Google search terms. And we've got more treasury accumulation from Semler Scientific. Semler Scientific purchases 210 BTC worth 25 million, increasing its holdings to 4,846 BTC, valued at 577 million per SEC filing. And this post is brought to us by Bitcoin Magazine. So the treasuries continue to load their bags regardless of the breakout for Bitcoin. Moving right along, we got another post here from Bitcoin Archive. Just in, 2.6 billion investor says Bitcoin will reach 500,000 by Christmas. Let's give this a listen.
Transition where the digital world will take off like a rocket to Mars.
So we saw Bitcoin hit all-time highs, capping over that 123,000 mark. And we've seen inflows in the past week that have been their highest of the year. Where do you see Bitcoin prices going in the near term and in the long term?
Well, I think short term is going to $500,000. And the long term, it's very conceivable to be at $10 million, because what happens is that one Bitcoin is worth 100 million Satoshis, and they're less than a penny. When they go and trade at a penny, that means Bitcoin's at $1 million. So when people go to Schwab and go and buy a HODL, a Bitcoin ETF, they're basically buying Satoshis. And for $1,000, they're getting almost 1 million Satoshis. $2,000, they easily have the best penny stock idea in the world, because they're buying increments of a penny. And as adoption takes place, and there's a limited scarcity of supply, it will rise. I just saw the Birka bag, the original Birka bag, which cost $2,000, went for $9 million.
I also saw that same exact article. I do want to ask one follow-up, though. You say near term we're going to be at $500,000. What's that timeline?
I think by Christmas, I think that's the potential, is $500,000 by Christmas, because the adoption goes through these exponential moves, goes sideways, and then all of a sudden it gaps up and the adoption process changes. So I remain very positive towards the industry.
Well, there you have it. Could we see a $500,000 Bitcoin by Christmas, and ultimately a $10 million Bitcoin? Is this too bullish, or is it not bullish enough? Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. As for me, generally speaking, I think we go higher over time. To what dollar amount, by what date? If only I had a crystal ball. So you let me know what you think in the comment section down below. But as the saying goes, crazy today, and lucky tomorrow. So we'll see how this plays out. And to balance things out, we do have a post here from Glassnode that says transfers from Bitcoin whales to exchanges are accelerating. The 7-day SMA is approaching 12K BTC, among the highest volumes this year and comparable to the spike in early November 24. Still below last year's peak, but likely signals rising profit taking or capital rotation. So if we look at the chart over here, we can see transfer volume from whale entities to exchanges in the yellow bars, and we can see the price of Bitcoin in black. And as you can see, the transfer volume is just poking its nose above the price of Bitcoin right over here on the right hand side. But if you look left, you can see that this gets absolutely wild at times, and we're just seeing a little bit of that. For me, I think it's likely just a little bit of profit taking when assets are breaking out to new all-time highs. There's people that are simply sitting in a lot of profit and are willing to take some lifestyle chips off the table, and or it can be capital rotations. We're even seeing a little bit of that with treasuries. We saw Tom Lee begin to build a treasury in Ethereum. So things do go through a rotation cycle. The king, Bitcoin, usually moves first, then capital will rotate into the bigger altcoins, Ethereum specifically, then you'll see rotations into Solana, then you get your mid-cap rallies, and then you get your junk rallies at the end. So for me, this isn't much of a warning shot fired, a little bit of profit taking, capital rotation, most likely. I don't think that this is a top. And back to the bullishness with a post from Glassnode. It's shaping up to be another strong week for Bitcoin spot ETF inflows. As of yesterday, institutional investors have already added 20K BTC, extending the streak of net positive flows to 7 consecutive weeks. And if we jump over to the Bitcoin ETF tracker, we can see some of these net inflows here, and they're monstrous. If we look back here on July 9th, we see 1.2 billion of net inflows. On July 10th, we see 1 billion worth of net inflows. Then we see it cool off a little bit on July 13th, 297 million of net inflows. And then over here on July 15th, we have 811 million of net inflows. But just straight green across the board as the ETFs continue to accumulate. And jumping into the price action of Bitcoin on a daily time frame, we see that big, beautiful move to the upside. And as of right now, Bitcoin's just kind of been sideways, hanging on to its recent gains after this nice breakout to the upside. We can see that's currently coming into contact with the 10 simple moving average. And when things get trending really hard to the upside, you'll see them tuck into that 10 simple moving average at the very least before getting its next move to the upside. So we'll see what Bitcoin manages to do from here. If we drop down to the momentum, we see the stochastic momentum is cooling off as Bitcoin trades sideways. So far, looking like a bit of a bullish reset, but this still has quite a ways to come down. What I like to look for is I like to see the momentum cooling off when an asset moves sideways after a big breakout. That to me begins to look like a bullish reset. You don't want to see that big selling come in and then this not move very far. You want to make sure that you see the asset go sideways, momentum cooling off during that period, and it ultimately sets it up for another thrust to the upside. So we're seeing the beginnings of that. We'll see how Bitcoin's price holds up. But as of right now, we see stochastic momentum just leaving that critical zone and angled aggressively to the downside as Bitcoin is just straight sideways. For the RSI, we see the RSI cooling off really quickly as well. So not a bad look. We see it coming down and it's coming into contact with that EMA inside the bullish control zone. Perhaps it finds some support there and maybe we get it moving back to the upside. Maybe sometime next week. We'll just simply pay attention to that as the data reveals itself. Dropping out of the MACD, and we see the MACD just simply cooling off as well. We see the moving averages beginning to converge on each other once again. And we see this island of positive momentum on the histogram beginning to cool off with those lighter colored bars, which to me is a good look. You know, we see Bitcoin breaking out to a new all-time high, and as it's doing that, it begins to go sideways, and we start to see that momentum just taking a bit of a breather to reset itself. Now, we'll see what happens in the coming days, if any significant selling steps in, say next week or whatnot, and then we'll take a look at what the momentum does. But if price action just stays sideways, you know, finding support along some of these moving averages, as that momentum begins to reset itself, it'll just, in time, it'll begin to look like a bullish reset, but a little bit too early to call for that. Now we have a zone to look at here, so let's go ahead and just stick a rectangle in the chart. We'll grab these candle bodies and we'll grab that green wick. Bitcoin starts moving to new all-time highs when it starts closing above this purple box. The top side of that purple box is marking this wick right here, coming in at a price point of approximately 123,000. And the bottom side of the purple box is marking those candle bodies, and that has a price point coming in at about 119,769. So what I'm looking for here is I'm looking for Bitcoin to, whether it wants to grind this area out, maybe it does a little bit of more of a pullback, perhaps into the 21, which is currently down around 114,126. Before maybe it makes another attempt at that zone. But at the end of the day, I don't care how it happens, when it happens. When we start getting candle body closures up above the top side of that box, then Bitcoin is going to be most likely, probability will be favoring that Bitcoin continues its price discovery. So we'll pay close attention to that. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That does it for this one. So what are your thoughts? Are you bullish on Bitcoin, or do you think it's time for profit taking? Did we put in a top? Or are we going to 500,000 Bitcoin by Christmas and ultimately to a $10 million Bitcoin? Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Thanks so much for coming by and checking out this video. Looking forward to seeing the next one. And until I do, have yourself a powerful day.